Beautiful shot of the Intrepid here in New York City. President Trump says he aced his cognitive test and is demanding that Joe Biden take one too. But it doesn't look like the former VP is going to do that anytime soon. Biden scolding a reporter in a very weird way for daring to ask him about it and also mocking President Trump. Watch.
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say?
Well, if he can't figure out the difference between an elephant and a lion, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Did you watch that? Look, come on, man. I know you're trying to goad me.
Now, that is a word salad. Lawrence, I'll go to you first. Does he not recognize that there is a question about his cognitive ability and taking it on might be in his interest?
Well, I don't know if he's unaware or it could be denial, but I'm not going to speak on his mental health, but what I will say, because I'm not a doctor, but I will say this is, as a guy that was elected to office for 47 years, I think is intellectually dishonest to say that this is a different Joe Biden, right? He was once known as the greatest retail politician. The campaigns would want him out talking with people. His press aides loved him talking to the press, even though sometimes he would turn some heads. He had a strategic way of connecting with people. That has since changed. They do not want him talking with the press. When he talks with the press, they are layups that they set up for him. They do not want him out talking with people because of the scene or the potential of them asking questions. And so there is a different Joe Biden. I think they have to be honest about that and plan a strategy to combat that. Now, to the people that would say, well, Donald Trump as well. Now, if you dislike what Donald Trump says or like what he says, I think it's one thing to say that he's been consistent all these years. He's been the same Donald Trump. Now, if you say that you dislike what he says, that's one argument. But I don't think there's a question of mental stability that people are saying. They just don't like what he has to say, which is fair, too.
Juan, if that's a layup, he missed it. Now, I'm going to play a flashback of what former Vice President Biden said about cognitive tests earlier. Listen.
I've been tested and I'm constantly tested. Look. All I got to do is watch me, and I can hardly wait to compare my cognitive capability to the cognitive capability of the man I'm running against.
So, Juan, does he believe that? Almost the same question. Do you believe that? Why would he say he took the test and then say, no, I don't need to take the test, and then bizarrely berate a reporter and ask him if he's a junkie? Is that something you want from your candidate?
Pete, I think he was so right and smart to fire back aggressively at that question, because I was just listening to you and Lawrence, and it's clear that there's some people who want to portray Joe Biden as a doddering old fool who'd be best put away by his family. And he's just not that. Dana Perino asked Joe Biden about this yesterday, and she was very clear. This guy has all his faculties. In fact,
well,
you know what's interesting?
What else would a spouse say?
Hang on, let me finish.
Say that.
Well, no, you could say that, but she was honest. And so here's the thing. When President Trump took a cognitive test, he thought somehow, he said he was bragging about it like it was an IQ test. This is a test given to people who may have Alzheimer's, dementia, have had a stroke. And he's talking about it, bragging about it to people. It was not rational. But nobody's, I think it's a little bit, I admire Lawrence for saying he's not a doctor, we're not doctors, but I think this is a political slander job aimed at Joe Biden.
So there's no difference, Juan?
And he's right to fire back and say this is lowball.
There's no difference in Joe Biden?
No difference. Let me just tell you, I ran into Joe Biden earlier this year, and Joe Biden, as in Joe Biden style, was talking my ear off, and still, Lawrence, a great, not average, great retail politician.
Okay. So Dana, we may not be able to play the doctor game here, but we can play the D.C. game. Let's put it in reverse. If President Trump was showing the same signs, unwilling to go out on the campaign trail, would the media be treating him the same way they're treating Joe Biden with kid gloves?
Well, I think we know that conservatives definitely get a tougher time from the media. In every case, this president gets a lot of it. So, yeah, of course. I think that the debates are the best place for the question of cognitive abilities to be solved by the American people who are going to make a decision. I don't think that this is a good use of time for the Trump campaign, and I think you see that because they started shifting their focus to be what you were talking about in the A block, Pete, which is about the policies and the consequences of the policies. And so they had done their research. They knew that it wasn't working as well, but they still stick on it. I also feel like there should be a reverse in the media strategy. Like, I think President Trump is everywhere all day long. And I know that his base loves to see him. But if they were to take a step back and then have the media focus on the fact that Joe Biden is not out there, and the only thing that they could use to talk about the 2020 race was his interview this morning, that would put a lot more focus on Joe Biden than basically stepping on that message all day long.
Well, the president will be on shortly here in about 10 minutes if he's on schedule.
Yes.
To your point, Dana. But Emily, do you think, we did hear, it's true earlier, the whole Sleepy Joe mantra playing on the cognitive ability. It seems the Trump campaign has shifted more to here's what he would unleash on the country. Is it useful politically in your mind to be talking about this? Because it is a real issue if you're going to be the leader of the free world.
I think it's useful and apt that they started discussing or attacking his policies because, remember, he hadn't unveiled them before. So prior to that, prior to him revealing that essentially he's putting forth Bernie and AOC's policies, it was just about him being Sleepy Joe. What I took away from that interview, because I'm not a doctor, is his inability to handle any type of prompting question. I took away his demeanor with an immediate raised hackles and an attack. And to me, that's what we're going to see more of in whenever he is allowed to debate the president right now. And that would have been an opportunity to him to say firmly and like a leader does, I'm quite confident in my cognitive ability and here's why. And let me tell you a little bit more about how that's going to further my policy. I mean, you know, it's not rocket science for him to have responded in a way that reassured us without playing into that game. And final point, Democrats' best strategy was to let the media attack the president while Joe Biden sort of hung out and reveled in the memory that Americans have of him being attached to President Obama. But because he is now out, we're seeing is obviously going to be imprinted on Americans' minds. So President Trump would be smart to let his team amplify this among the electorate and take a step back from engaging in it himself.
Juan, I'm going to double down briefly on what Lawrence said to you. Do you really feel confident that Joe Biden on the stage, whether the dates are moved or not, can go toe-to-toe with President Trump where he is right now? He hasn't had the warm-up the way candidates normally would on the trail. He's been in his basement. Are you truly confident that he's capable of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to you and trying to respect this concept because we just saw him in an interview that you guys played and said you didn't like the response. But I think he should fire back aggressively and say this is nonsense. But you know what? I mean, as Dana said, we'll see. We'll have the debates. The American people can be the judge. But if you saw the Axios interview or the Chris Wallace interview, you'd have to say the one that seems to be not in touch with the facts, I think he's in the White House.
Well, there has been no
Joe
Chris
Biden's
Wallace.
not doing interviews. So
yeah, there has been no Chris Wallace interview for Joe Biden, to Lawrence's point. All right.